What's good, everybody, man? I'm GG. You know what time it is, man. This is the Green Gorilla Channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chasers. You feel me? You know what it is. I promised today that I was going to do this show for Vector 313, so I'm going to go ahead and make it happen, man. I figured, I may as well come out of my cubby hole and go and get this done. So having said all that, man, shout out to all the haters out there, man. Holla at y'all. Hope y'all having a good afternoon, man. If you're coming in, man, make sure to share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button, all that good stuff, man. Also, man, like I always do, I want to shout out all the people who support the channel, who help me keep things going. So shout out to Psychology Sorcery, Roderick Jackson, Yisrael Malachi, Blacksword 404, Cutting Up with the Jones, Sherlin Woe, Void Be Free, Michael Ross, Brotherly Love 215, and Daniel. Big up to y'all, man. Shout out to No Sleep, Artisan MC, Damian H, Charles Rogers, Divine Love Ridge, Dub Will, Seven Coast Dojo, Red Falls Black, Electrician 480, Be Conscious Black Honey, and Intuit. Big up. Shout out to Stefan, Jazstack, Andre 416, Reform, J. Cleveland Green, Benga, Gerard Shelton, Hostile Adept, and Dar. Big up, man. Shout out to An Honest Look at the End, Zanco 1, Cornelius Bellamy, Salty Balls, Mike Johnston, Toya the Tutor, Wild Bear 50, Sunrise 44, Marnolis, BGS Ibmore, and Lock Vegas. Big up. Shout out to BMROC, Passport OG, Rasheed Barnes, Leon 008, Mr. Good Dad, Third Coast X, 63rd Samurai, Ishmael Samad, The Watcher, and the Ruthless Heartless Revelator. Big up to y'all, man. Big up to Kill the Game, Dr. Thunder, Jason Hills, Charles Finney, Interesting Thought, The Silent Warrior, Naomi Gary, The Black Toxic Masculinist, Seek Truth, Larry R, Seth Sun, Afro Truth TV, Show Me Spain Man, Anthony Davis, I'm Just Jules, Ricky Dawson, True 7360, Mr. Me Too, and Call for President. Big up to y'all, man. Big up to Gold Professors, AKs and Curtains, H-Town, Roguish, The Snooze, Adrian Thomas, D. Scott, Path God, Pete Rock 496. Big up. Big up to Aaron P., Vince Lindsay, Quiz the Poet, Black Wizard ADOS, Troy Warren, Mrs. KP Bailey, Alan Wiley, The Face, Life of Commerce, AI Apostle, Jeffrey Speed, Marvin Battle Jr. Big up to y'all, man. Shout out to Adam, Ignatz Mouse, Dr. Tree 33, 77 Base X, Brian McMurray, Karen S., Rick Ross, Charles Gilmore III, and Greg. Big up. Shout out to Barry Little, Mr. Valentino, Doc LaRock, Mark Swift, Odd Collar, Donald Watts, Coach DC, Mr. Blue Collar, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Mr. Heat, Sir Anthony, MLR, Universal 178, DH, A Double, Kalon Chakala, and WPR1. Can't forget the brethren in the astral plane, man. Forrest Windu, David Carroll, and Kevin Samuels. Big up to them, man. And on the Patreon side, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Tiesan Johnson, Chittabim Amari, Frank Black, Robert Wicks, Chris Flowers, Christopher Burton, Daxby the Tetrahedron, J Live, Keith Bass Jr., Nick, Albert C., Dr. Ben Vincent, Waffle Weave, Darnell Smith, Excalibur, Preserve Prisoner, Taz, Dragon 59, Jay Bailey, Mo Mal, and Asangwa. Big up to all y'all, man. Appreciate the support, man. Thank you so much for the support, man. If you want to support the Green Gorilla Channel, here's how you do it. I'll be back. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla Channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla Channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla Channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. Okay, man, we back. I'm GG. You tuned in to the Green Gorilla Channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chasers, man. And anyway, man, again, this video was one that was basically requested for me to do by Vector 313. So I'm doing it, man. And I didn't spend a whole hell of a lot of time, looking at the video because I wanted to give my honest reaction to it. Okay, it's Bill Clinton and the comments that he made about the Million Man March and some indirect animus that he threw towards Farrakhan. So, of course, Farrakhan is public enemy number one. I mean, they always talk about reverse racism. As soon as you start talking about racism and you express anger towards the system, the first thing they do is they try to use the Jedi mind trick to tell you how angry you ought not be and how morally superlative you need to be, and so on and so forth. So, having said all that, man, shout out to y'all out there. Again, this is impromptu. Didn't really plan on doing it today, but I said I may as well go ahead, man. It's November the 5th, and the first of the month. I haven't done any shows since then, so I figured I may as well do one. And also, put a 1 if you can hear me pretty clearly out there. I don't know, what the audio is sounding like out there, but put a 1 in the chat, man, if you can hear me loud and clear and everything sounds like it normally sounds. I would appreciate your help on that. But shout out to Andre 416 Reform. What's up with you, man? Says sup GG in the chat. Okay, everybody can hear me pretty good out there. What's up, Jay? Says what's up GG. Miguelito 69, what's up GG? Milton Patton says what's up GG. Pragmatic Prime, greetings BGS in chat. Is BGS out there? I don't know if he out there, man. Shout out to that dude. Detroit 313, big up. Ron Matthews says showtime. So anyway, man, let me get right into this, man. So this is a speech by Bill Clinton. This is done for Vector 313. Maybe he's not watching at the current moment. But anyway, man, I'll express my opinion. This is a reaction video. So let's just go ahead and start watching the video, man. Shout out to Dr. Tierson Johnson, man. What's cracking with you, bro? Long time no see, man, on these YouTube streets, man. Where you been on the YouTube streets, bro? Where you been on these YouTube streets, man?
My fellow Americans, I want to begin by...
So let me stop right quick before I even start. Let me acknowledge Dr. Tierson Johnson with an explosion, man. Shout out to Dr. T, man. Shout out to you, Dr. T. And anyway, man, let me just go ahead and get this started. So this is a speech that Bill Clinton is giving at the University of Texas on the same day that the Million Man March was taking place. So, and all of the introductions and shit like that, I cut all that off. So here goes, man.
Telling you that I am hopeful about America. When I looked at Nicole Bell up here introducing me and I shook hands with these other young students, I looked into their eyes and I saw the AmeriCorps button on that gentleman's shirt. I was reminded, as I talk about this thorny subject of race today, I was reminded of what Winston Churchill said about the United States when President Roosevelt was trying to pass the Lend-Lease Act so that we could help Britain in their war against Nazi Germany before we ourselves were involved. And for a good while, the issue was hanging fire, and it was unclear whether the Congress would permit us to help Britain, who at that time was the only bulwark against tyranny in Europe. Winston Churchill said, "I have great confidence in the judgment and the common sense of the American people and their leaders. They invariably do the right thing after they have examined every other alternative."
Look, this is odd to me, right? So this guy's talking about America doing the right thing after they've explored every other alternative and possibility, but when it comes to the subject of race, these motherfuckers can't figure nothing out. Why can't y'all figure this issue out? It's not really all that difficult to deal with and to make right. But I mean, they make it impossible to do. And it kills me, man. So, and oddly enough, he's talking about terror in Europe, and I think he's talking about Hitler, right? American Southern racist culture was inspirational to Nazi Germany, man. The Jim Crow South was the prototype for the Nazi fascist state. That's the facts. But now we're talking about what America will do the right thing. It'll do the right thing when you start looking and exploring the possibilities. Yeah, America it always does the right thing. Still ain't done the right thing in relation to race. You still haven't. But anyway, let me keep pushing through this, man. It's about 30 minutes of this, man. So
I say to you, let me begin by saying that I can see in the eyes of these students and in the spirit of this moment, we will do the right thing. In recent weeks, every one of us has been made aware of a simple truth. White Americans and Black Americans often see the same world in drastically different ways that go beyond and beneath the Simpson trial and its aftermath, which brought these perceptions so starkly into the open.
Yep. I mean, here he's being factual. Like, Black Americans and white Americans typically don't see eye to eye about what reality is. They interpret reality differently, predicated upon their own experiences. So I give him that.
The rift we see before us that is tearing at the heart of America exists in spite of the remarkable progress Black Americans have made in the last generation, since Martin Luther King swept America up in his dream, and President Johnson spoke so powerfully for the dignity of man and the destiny of democracy in demanding that Congress guarantee full voting rights to blacks. The rift between blacks and whites exists still in a very special way in America, in spite of the fact that we have become much more racially and ethnically diverse, and that Hispanic Americans, themselves no strangers to discrimination, are now almost 10% of our national population.
What does that have to do with racial progress, though? The fact that there's more racial diversity in the United States does not necessarily mean that there's more racial justice in the United States. I don't know why this whole diversity argument has any weight to it whatsoever. I just think it's a bunch of bullshit. That's just my opinion. But anyway.
The reasons for this divide are many. Some are rooted in the awful history and stubborn persistence of racism. Some are rooted in the different ways we experience the threats of modern life to personal security, family values, and strong communities.
Now he's not really going into it really deep here, but I think more than anything else, I think this was like a hint towards the fact that we have different kind of values in the Black community related to family and the community in general. He didn't really say that explicitly. That's just like a one and done. Like he just threw a pump fake or something like that. A head nod. Okay? He didn't really explicitly say it, but there's differences. Okay? So I assume that at some point, the argument is going to be one where he says that there is character flaws in Black folks. Specifically Black men, and because those character flaws exist, then the condition that Black people find themselves in can be, reasoned out. There's a reason. The reason is the characterological flaws, not the systemic structures, the institutional, practices. You got some bad fucking morality going on there. But anyway, let's keep pushing.
Some are rooted in the fact that we still haven't learned to talk frankly, to listen carefully, and to work together across racial lines.
Y'all don't want to listen. The issue is y'all don't want to listen. It ain't the issue we don't want to listen. You don't want to listen. You don't want to accept the frankness of the speech. That's the issue. You don't want to listen. But anyway, let me keep pushing.
Almost 30 years ago, Dr. Martin Luther King took his last march with sanitation workers in Memphis. They marched for dignity, equality, and economic justice. Many carried placards that read simply, "I am a man." The throngs of men marching in Washington today, almost all of them, are doing so for the same stated reason. But there is a profound difference between this march today and those of 30 years ago. 30 years ago, the marchers were demanding the dignity and opportunity they were due because in the face of terrible discrimination, they had worked hard, raised their children, paid their taxes, obeyed the laws, and fought our wars.
So these motherfuckers was holy. And so their movements are sacrosanct, and then they can go back and rewind time and go back and, kind of lionize and, basically enshrine these kind of men into saintly kind of figures and characters. But during the time that they were actually doing the work they were doing, man, they were public enemy number one, and they were demonized just as much as this motherfucker's about to demonize Farrakhan. I mean, they go back and they rewrite and give different accounts and narratives than what was happening at the time related to these figures. So they get to appropriate Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, and all these other figures from the civil rights movement. They get to appropriate what they consider to be the right kind of protest, the right kind of thinking, the right kind of ideals related to what black people are supposed to be doing. And I really despise that, man. Who the fuck are you to tell us what we're supposed to be thinking, what we're supposed to be feeling, the kind of political ideas we're supposed to be developing? You hamstring what we're supposed to be doing by, basically telling us, well, here were the holy men of the past, and here's how they reacted. And they weren't treated as or regarded as holy at all. They were basically perceived as public nuisances and criminals and deviants, not heroes. But now they get to go back, and retroactively canonize these individuals into saints and then appropriate, their kind of strategies of goodwill and peaceful protest. They get to appropriate that and then denounce people who have different kind of strategies and objectives without even acknowledging the fact that the civil rights movement wasn't a one size fits all kind of movement. There were various moving parts, different people with different kind of political ideals and objectives. But you want to basically appropriate King and use them in order to denounce other people presently, which I think is disingenuous. But let me keep pushing.
Well, today's march is also about pride and dignity and respect. But after a generation of deepening social problems that disproportionately impact Black Americans, it is also about Black men taking renewed responsibility for themselves, their families, and their communities. It's about saying no to crime and drugs and violence. It's about standing up for atonement and reconciliation. It's about insisting that others do the same and offering to help them. It's about the frank admission that unless Black men shoulder their load, no one else can help them or their brothers, their sisters, and their children escape the hard, bleak lives that too many of them still face.
Now, this is where the shit begins to get disingenuous. Like, what are you talking about here, bro? Like, we know we need to stand up and take responsibility. We get that. Okay, fine. So I went to the Million Man March, man. A long time. I went with my father and two of my brothers, man. We got on the bus, a school bus, yellow school bus from Chicago, and went to the Million Man March, man. And it was about atonement, you know, like saying that instead of preying on the community, we're going to protect it and so on and so forth. But like, come on, man. MLK said this shit a long time ago, man. You set us free, but you set us free in debt. You set us free to do what? You set us free into a trap with no tools, no resources to get out of it. So although we have to take responsibility for some of the shit that's going on there, man, come on, let's just be honest, man. You more than anybody else know, Clinton, one of the reasons or several of the reasons why black men find themselves the way they are. But this was an opportunity for Clinton to take up the banner of black male issues and to deal with them squarely and to deal with them fairly and to deal with them in a real substantive way. And all he did was just basically talk a lot of shit about morality. It just is what it is, bro. But let me keep pushing.
Of course, some of those in the march do have a history that is far from its message of atonement and reconciliation. 1 million men are right to be standing up for personal responsibility. But 1 million men do not make right one man's message of malice and division.
They gonna start clapping on this. And basically they're clapping because this is what they do, man. They reduce racism to feelings or attitudes or like mental dispositions. And then they act like, okay, well, we passed a few acts here and there. We didn't really do anything to really substantively change the conditions in which black people exist, but we passed a few laws and we got the right attitudes and we don't discriminate against people. We treat everybody procedurally fairly, everybody exactly the same. So like the whole conversation should be over now. It's all up to you now. It's pretty much fair. This is the most civilized, the greatest place on earth, blah, blah, blah. This is what we get. More and more doses of that bullshit. And a lot of black Americans eat that shit up too. Because there's a lot of black Americans at this fucking speech clapping. And basically they just came out and this was a fucking hit piece for Farrakhan. That's all this shit is, bro. Let's be frank about it, man. This is a Farrakhan hit piece, man. It is what it is. You might not agree with everything Farrakhan says, but damn, I mean, you got more crazy shit going on in American history and people with far worse attitudes and dispositions who said far more negative things than Farrakhan has said about race. One of them, which he's going to refer to in the context of his speech here, but let's just be frank about this, man. This is a fucking Farrakhan hit piece, bro. This is part of what he's doing here. He's like, I don't really actually support Farrakhan because some of the things that he said. Now, let's just be frank about it, right? Farrakhan has said a lot of things. Some which, you know, are considered anti-Semitic because he's been quoted as referring to Judaism as a gutter religion. Which I think is a little harsh, but you know, but he suggested the Jewish people are responsible for the slave trade, which they are. They don't just get a pass because they're Jewish, because of what happened in Nazi Germany. So everything else they ever did is white clean. Fuck that. Right? Then they make the reverse argument on Farrakhan, like, because he's considered to have said things that like are racist towards white people, like calling them devils and shit like that. But come on, man, like what the fuck look what they've done to our culture, man. And to us as a group of people. So we got to consider them holy or some shit like that? Come on, man. Let's be real, man. He said things which are considered to be homophobic. But I mean, come on, let's face it, man. Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, man, if you take what they say at face value in those texts, these texts are homophobic, man. It just is what it is. Ain't no getting around it, man. There's no getting around that. Okay? Now, some people say he's developed, like crazy conspiracy theories. I'm talking about Farrakhan, right? That the U.S. government was responsible for the introduction of HIV and AIDS into the black community. But I mean, given some of the shit that these people have done in the past, how could you rule it out? In St. Louis, Missouri, they did testing of radioactive material on black folks, man, in the projects, bro. Straight up testing of radioactive materials, man, the black folks in the projects in St. Louis. But we supposed to not have any kind of conspiracy theories about what they might be doing. Let's not forget the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, man. So, I mean, does he say some things which are controversial? I guess. I mean, but considering the sort of shit that's actually been done in this country, how could you expect otherwise? You expect everybody to just be, a good faith actor when, like, the United States has, and the people in it have not been good faith actors related to racial justice and progress? Come on, man. And, some people say he made some controversial comments about 9/11, but that's before, this speech was before, any of those comments. It was before 9/11 anyway, So, but all I'm saying is, so now it's time to talk about how, like, much of a racist Farrakhan is. Because he's, calling white people in this country devils and shit related to the mischief and the misery they've caused. But that's racist. And you got black people in America who are still being subjected to injustices. And if they express what they feel about it, all of a sudden, it's reverse racism, man. Come on, man. I just don't buy that, man. But let me keep pushing, bro.
No good house was ever built on a bad foundation.
Well, shit, this house definitely. You saying this was built on a good foundation, man? The foundation was 400 years. First of all, it was an act of theft, the annexation of Native American land. And in addition to that, acts of genocide, coupled with slavery, after which you got Jim Crow. And then you want to talk about foundations, man? Come on, bro. We gonna talk about foundations? Now we talking about foundations. Come on, man.
Good ever came of hate. So let us pray today that all who march and...
Nothing good ever came out of hate. Your whole world was propped up. The entirety of Europe and white society in general was elevated, predicated upon acts of hatred, bro. It is what it is. Maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe I got it twisted, man. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody can educate me otherwise.
All who speak will stand for atonement, for reconciliation, for responsibility. Let us pray that those who have spoken for hatred and division in the past will turn away from that past and give voice to the true message of those ordinary Americans who march. If that happens, the men and the women who are there with them will be marching into better lives for themselves and their families, and they could be marching into a better future for America. Today we face a choice. One way leads to further separation and bitterness and more lost futures. The other way, the path of courage and wisdom, leads to unity, to reconciliation, to a rich opportunity for all Americans to make the most of the lives God gave them.
So either we go in the way of hate which is to have indignation at racism, which, or we going to go to the love type shit, MLK and all of those kind of viewpoints. Which principally, it is what it is, man. Go ahead. I'm gonna let them speak.
This moment in which the racial divide is so clearly out in the open need not be a setback for us. It presents us with a great opportunity, and we dare not let it pass us by.
Empty nothingness is what that means to me. There's no substance there. We can go the way of love or we can go the way of hate. What the fuck is that doing to change race relations in the United States, bro? We can go the way of love or hate. There's no substance there, man.
In the past, when we've had the courage to face the truth about our failure to live up to our own best ideals, we've grown stronger, moved forward, and restored proud American optimism. At such turning points, America moved to preserve the Union and abolish slavery, to embrace women's suffrage, to guarantee basic legal rights to America without regard to race, under the leadership of President Johnson. At each of these moments...
Hold on, man. I'll stop that shit. Hold on. Let me.
Have lived too long with a justice system that in 2 minutes...
Let me go back, man.
Cannot stand.
I had to stop it, man. I got fidgety.
In the past, when we've had the courage to face the truth about our failure to live up to our own best ideals, we've grown stronger, moved forward, and restored proud American optimism. At such turning points, America moved to preserve the Union and abolish slavery, to embrace women's suffrage, to guarantee basic legal rights to America without regard to race.
Look, man, America never has dealt with the racial issue in a substantive way, but what they did do by introducing sex into the Civil Rights Act of '64, and he'll lose to, Lyndon Baines Johnson and all of this kind of shit. When they did that, they just basically said, okay, we don't really have to deal with the racial issue. We need to deal with, the gender issue. So the gender issue has become the paramount issue. Race is put on the back burner. It's just a fact, man.
Under the leadership.
And shout out to Andre 416 Reform. Appreciate that. And also shout out to T Fitness for You, Teresa McCrae, and Sabir Plumbing, man. Appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate y'all. Okay. Again, I'm doing this for Vector 313. He asked for me to do this, so I'm doing it. Okay? So let's push through it.
Of President Johnson. At each of these moments, we looked in the national mirror and were brave enough to say, this is not who we are. We're better than that.
Man, that's got to be some kind of fucking sick joke, right? It can't be said, we're better than that. We're much better than this. Come on, man. But then, all it takes is 2 or 3 presidencies, now you're trying to make America great again. And we all know what that language and that rhetoric is about, man.
Abraham Lincoln reminded us that a house divided against itself cannot stand.
And also, Abraham Lincoln didn't free the slaves because he thought black people should be equal to that of white folks. He just wanted to prevent the dissolution of the Union. He said if I could do this shit without freeing the slaves, I'd do it. So there's that. But anyway, let's keep pushing.
When divisions have threatened to bring our house down, somehow we have always moved together to shore it up. My fellow Americans, our house is the greatest democracy in all human history.
Oh, okay.
And with all its racial and ethnic diversity, it has beaten the odds of human history. But we know that divisions remain, and we still have work to do.
Say that. You can say that again.
The 2 worlds we see now each contain both truth and distortion. Both black and white Americans must face this, for honesty is the only gateway to the many acts of reconciliation that will unite our worlds at last into one America. White America must understand and acknowledge the roots of black pain. It began with unequal treatment, first in law and later in fact. African Americans indeed have lived too long with a justice system that in too many cases has been and continues to be less than just.
Then why didn't you fucking work to dismantle it, bro? If that's the case, if you know this, why didn't you work to dismantle it? In fact, what you and your wife did was you basically doubled down on the system is what you motherfuckers did. You doubled down on it.
The record of abuses extends from lynchings and trumped-up charges to false arrests and police brutality. The tragedies of Emmett Till and Rodney King are bloody markers on the very same road. Still today, too many of our police officers play by the rules of the bad old days. It is beyond wrong when law-abiding black parents have to tell their law-abiding children to fear the police whose salaries are paid by their own taxes.
Sound good.
And blacks are right to think something is terribly wrong when African American men are many times more likely to be victims of homicide than any other group in this country, when there are more African American men in our correction system than in our colleges, when almost 1 in 3 African American men in their 20s are either in jail, on parole, or otherwise under the supervision of the criminal justice system, nearly 1 in 3, and that is a disproportionate percentage in comparison to the percentage of blacks who use drugs in our society. Now, I would like every white person here and in America.
So, I mean, he's acknowledging something here. You know, like he's saying that the criminal justice system is skewed in the way that it treats black men and the way that it treats white men. That there's something wrong there. Okay? But the question is, you fucking ran on enhancing and strengthening and shoring up the criminal state, man. That's what you did. You didn't go in the reverse. You doubled down on this shit. So, like, I mean, while the words sound good, you didn't do shit about it. You didn't do anything about it. Anyway, let me keep pushing.
I'm going to take a moment to think how he or she would feel.
And he also acknowledges that black folks are no more likely to use or sell drugs than the white demographic. But we go to prison more for it. We get caught up and ensnared in the criminal justice system more than they do. But anyway, let's keep pushing.
If 1 in 3 white men were in similar circumstances. And there is still unacceptable economic disparity between blacks and whites. It is so fashionable to talk today about African Americans as if they had been some sort of protected class. Many whites think blacks are getting more than their fair share in terms of jobs and promotions. That is not true. That is not true. The truth is that African Americans still make on average about 60% of what white people do, that more than half of African American children live in poverty, and at the very time our young Americans need access to college more than ever before, black college enrollment is dropping in America. On the other hand, blacks must understand and acknowledge the roots of white fear in America.
Now here's where the bullshit comes in. Here's where the bullshit comes in, man. Check this shit out. This shit fucks me up, bro.
Fear of the violence that is too prevalent in our urban areas, and often by experience or at least what people see on the news at night, Violence for those white people too often has a black face. It isn't racist for a parent to pull his or her child close when walking through a high-crime neighborhood.
When the fuck do you motherfuckers walk through our neighborhoods, man? Come on, man. Come on, man. Through a high-crime neighborhood. When you seen white people, man, walking through a fucking high-crime neighborhood? Walking through the north side of St. Louis or the south side of Chicago or some shit. I ain't saying it don't never happen, but come on, man. Bruh.
Or to wish to stay away from neighborhoods where innocent children can be shot in school, or standing at bus stops by thugs driving by with assault weapons.
When you say thugs, that's that nigga language. That's a substitute word for nigga. And then he talks about kids getting killed, innocent children being killed in schools. Come on, man. What about all these goddamn shooters, man? These rural white boys is going to kill shoots 50, 60 motherfuckers at a time because he is dissatisfied with his own life, man. Come on, bro. Come on, man. But we ain't, hey, look, let's keep going.
Holding handguns like Old West desperados.
So, I'm going to tell you what this is to me. I'm just going to be quite frank about it, man. What this sounds like to me is the same shit a lot of Negroes in the Black Manosphere talk about, man. It's like, it's the Pookie shit. It's the Pookie conversation. Okay? And how they need to be brought to heel, how we need to get at these motherfuckers, right? And it's most of it is a myth, okay? The idea that, you got these violent thugs out there just terrorizing everybody and everything. I mean, to some degree it happens, it occurs, but first of all and foremost, man, I like to say, man, how did the gangs begin with? How did they start? Where did they come from? I mean, there are movies and documentaries done about this shit, especially like I can't speak to, Chicago, but I definitely can speak to California and how the gang started there. It was black gangs basically out of necessity forming together because they was getting pummeled by white boys while they're trying to fucking go to school. They created the Slawsons and the Gladiators to defend themselves against the fucking spook hunters, man. This is facts. Go look at Bastards of the Party, man, if you don't believe what I'm saying, man. Most of the black gangs were basically formed in order to have black folks protect themselves from the shit that they were enduring from white gangs. So, I mean, were the white gangs thugs? Huh? Anyway, man, let me keep pushing with this shit, man. I'll be here all night.
It isn't racist for parents to recoil in disgust when they read about a national survey of gang members saying that 2/3 of them feel justified in shooting someone simply for showing them disrespect. It isn't racist for whites to say they don't understand why people put up with gangs on the corner or in the projects or with drugs being sold in the schools or in the open. It's not racist for whites to assert that the culture of welfare dependency, out-of-wedlock pregnancy, and absent fatherhood cannot be broken by social programs unless there is first more personal responsibility.
Now here we go with the personal responsibility, the fatherlessness, and all of this kind of shit. We talk about these issues, but one of the things that we do is we demonstrate the various ways in which, let's just be quite frank, we have a black gynocracy, and the reason that we have one is because the United States, it fails, refuses to squarely deal with the issues that black men face in this country. You basically continue to demote us socially. You do everything you can to stymie, to thwart, and to block our progress. But then you want us to have functional families and communities, man. Now explain to me how you're going to have that. when everybody's consigned to work against our best interest and the handicappers. Now, I'm not saying, people don't need to, shoulder or exemplify or display personal responsibility. But come on, man. You know what? Social programs have fucked up the black community, man. I ain't gonna lie and say they have not. But see, the difference is the kind of social programs that they utilize for themselves and those that they gave to us. They gave them social programs like FHA loans and the GI Bill and works programs. They gave us what? Motherfucking what, the welfare state? The welfare state? Come on, man. I've been talking about this shit. I don't know how long I've been discussing and talking about it, bro. They give us the welfare state, the man in the house rule, a whole bunch of paternalistic bureaucrats coming in and out of the house. They didn't do that to them, man. They didn't split them away from their families. They didn't do that shit. They gave them the ability to purchase a house for far less than it costs to actually rent a fucking house. They subsidized their middle class life while they worked to undermine ours. So this man knows this though. He's not a fool. He's not a dummy by any stretch of the imagination. He knows what the fuck is going on. But let me keep pushing.
The great potential for this march today, beyond the black community, is that whites will come to see a larger truth. That blacks share their fears and embrace their convictions. Openly assert that without changes in the black community and within individuals, real change for our society will not come. This march could remind white people that most black people share their old-fashioned American values. For most black Americans still do work hard, care for their families, pay their taxes, and obey the law, often under circumstances which are far more difficult than those their white counterparts face. Imagine how you would feel if you were a young parent in your 20s with a young child living in a housing project, working somewhere for $5 an hour with no health insurance, passing every day people on the street selling drugs, making 100 times what you make. Those people are the real heroes of America today, and we should recognize that. And white people too often forget that they are not immune to the problems black Americans face. Crime, drugs, domestic abuse, and teen pregnancy, they are too prevalent among whites as well, and some of those problems are growing faster in our white population than in our minority population. So
How am I supposed to think about all of this, man? At the end of the day, what I think he just did there was, he's basically saying, look, we got to get rid of the criminal niggas, the pookies and all of this kind of shit, the thugs, which to me is loosely veiled language. It's anti-black misandrist language, if you ask me, okay? Because right now, these motherfuckers got like an opioid epidemic going on and a meth, epidemic going on, and they don't refer to themselves in these terms, in these manners, man. They don't do that shit. You ever heard them refer to each other as thugs and fucking criminals and shit like this, man? And Slick Rick is exactly right. The majority of the crack smokers were white and still are. But anyway, the only thing I don't like, man, is for this kind of language to be utilized against an entire demographic of persons who, given like the history of American gangs and shit like this, man, come on, man. We already know like where the gangs really came from in America. We already know, we know that the gangs in America, they started off as European gangs, man. The Irish, the Italians, running alcohol and racketeering and shit like this. But let me keep pushing, man. I want to get through this, man. I don't want to be stuck with this shit all day.
All have a stake in solving these common problems together. It is, therefore, wrong for white Americans to do what they have done too often, simply to move further away from the problems and support policies that will only make them worse. Finally, both sides seem to fear deep down inside that they'll never quite be able to see each other as more than enemy faces, all of whom carry at least a sliver of bigotry in their hearts. Differences of opinion rooted in different experiences are healthy, indeed essential, for democracies. But differences so great and so rooted in race threatened to divide the House Mr. Lincoln gave his life to save. As Dr. King said, we must learn to live together as brothers, or we will perish as fools.
And this is where I'm going to stop, man, because you know what Lincoln said about race and slavery. Okay? You know what he said, right? He said, if I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. But then he refers to him as some sort of great, anti-racial thinker. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Let's stop the bullshit. I mean, yeah, we can thank him for the Emancipation Proclamation, but let's just be frank about it, man. His views on race were not progressive by any stretch of the imagination. And then everybody wants to, refer to MLK and Lincoln and how correct their views were on race and all of this, man. Come on, man. First of all, like I said before, when I first started this, man, MLK, during the time he was doing the work he was doing, he was not regarded as a hero in American culture and society. He was public enemy number one. He was regarded as a criminal, a rabble-rouser, and a lousy, race mixer, a commie. That was anti-American. But now they appropriate him and utilize him without even acknowledging some of the other things that he said about structural and economic issues in the United States. Nobody ever talks about that. They just talk about the content of the content of the character, not the color of the skin, so that they can use it in order to basically make the argument that, nobody should be seen, like we should adopt a colorblind strategy as it pertains to race, and not like actually do something substantive to deal with the disparate so-called impacts that we each have related to this phenomena, and like how this phenomena unfolded in the history of the U.S. But anyway, man, let me keep pushing through this, man. I don't want to stay stuck on this point.
Recognizing one another's real grievances is only the first step. We must all take responsibility for ourselves, our conduct, and our attitudes. America, we must clean our house of racism. To our white citizens, I say, I know most of you every day do your very best by your own lights to live a life free of discrimination. Nevertheless, too many destructive...
Do you hear this? He just getting the benefit of the doubt, like we know, hey, I know most whites, they don't want to discriminate against nobody. You're just some good, God-fearing American people. You're the fairest group of people I ever did see on the face of this here earth. Come on, man. Let's just keep it a bean, man. That's how Americans are, man? Okay.
Ideas are gaining currency in our midst. The taped voice of one policeman should fill you with outrage.
You know he's making a reference to Mark Furman during the O.J. Simpson trial, who said, you know, he basically said that as it pertains to black people and their believability and their credibility, their ability to speak with candor and truth, he's like, you know, like the first 6, 7 sentences that ever comes out of a nigger's mouth is all lies. That's Mark Furman, man. Calling black people monkeys and shit like that, man. This is the police, though. And so you wonder why black Americans have a different idea about like the outcome of criminal justice trials and criminal justice systems to begin with. Like, imagine that the people who's supposed to protect us regard us as monkeys and niggers and liars. Oh man, let me keep pushing through this, man.
So I say we must clean the house of white America of racism. Americans who are in the white majority should be proud to stand up and be heard denouncing the sort of racist rhetoric we heard on that tape, so loudly and clearly denouncing it that our black fellow citizens can hear us. White racism may be black people's burden, but it's white people's problem. We must clean our house. To our black citizens, I honor the presence of hundreds of thousands of men in Washington today, committed to atonement and to personal responsibility, and the commitment of millions of other men and women who are African Americans to this cause. I call upon you to build on this effort to share equally in the promise of America. But to do that, your house too must be cleaned of racism. There are too many today. There are too many today, white and black, on the left and the right, on the street corners and the radio waves, who seek to sow division for their own purposes.
Okay, so look, I don't know what you know, man, but look, man, the Nation of Islam's message ain't really changed much in 50 to 60 years, man. It really ain't changed, man. I mean, they have like a literature that explains the development. I'm not saying I believe in it metaphysically and ontologically all across the board, because some of this shit is a little weird, okay? But I mean, the literature from the Nation of Islam is clear. That white folks can't be trusted, that they act devilish, that what they've created for themselves is heaven, but it's your hell. And if white folks want to do right, we can't get along with each other. We can see that, so fuck it. If you don't want to actually have us interpolated into your culture, give us a piece, a tract of minerally rich land somewhere so we can go out and fucking develop a culture and a society on our own, apart of having to deal with you devilish motherfuckers. This is what I mean, like, this is the NOI, like, this is the Nation of Islam for like decades. Every final call has their talking points. Every last one of them. He could be talking about, he's talking about Farrakhan, Al Sharpton, a whole bunch of motherfuckers. They're talking about, but primarily I would assume that he's talking about Farrakhan, because this is taking place, because he's making references to the Million Man March. So black folks are racist for being indignant about the racism that they're facing. That's the sort of shit, man, to me, it's like the Jedi mind trick, man. You can't be angry. You can't have any negative sentiment in your heart about being subjected to this kind of fuckery for centuries. And in order for us to get along, we all have to be like MLK or like Medgar Evers or, you know, some other fucking saintly civil rights, like figure. Like all we have to do is come with love and allow ourselves to be beat the fuck down in holes and have dogs sicked on us and shit. This is the way. We have to be like Gandhi. Let me keep pushing through this, man. I'm going to show about 5 or 10 more minutes of this, then I'm about to pull out.
To them I say, no more. We must be one. Long before we were so diverse, our nation's motto was a pluribus unum. Out of many, we are one. We must be one as neighbors, as fellow citizens.
But you forget the fact that, like if you had one drop of Negro blood, you were a Negro and were not given the same kind of rights afforded to everybody else in this culture. You were 3/5 of a fucking man. How's that for some e pluribus unum? How's that for some unity and shit like that? You created a whole different state for black folks and white folks. You made black folks get in the back of the bus and go to the back of the hotel. But now it's all about e pluribus unum and shit like that. Out of many, one. Okay.
Not separate camps, but family. White, black, Latino, all of us, no matter how different, who share basic American values and are willing to live by them. When a child is gunned down on a street in the Bronx, no matter what our race, he is our American child. When a woman dies from a beating, no matter what our race or hers, she is our American sister. And every time drugs course through the vein of another child, it clouds the future of all our American children.
That's the crack baby reference right there. That's the famous crack baby reference. We got to stop black babies, we got to stop the crack babies out here. Where's the scientific evidence for this shit? There is none. But anyway.
Whether we like it or not, we are one nation, one family, indivisible. And for us, divorce or separation are not options. Here in 1995, on the edge of the 21st century, we dare not tolerate the existence of two Americas. Under my watch, I will do everything I can to see that as soon as possible, there is only one.
That's a lie. We checked the motherfucking the test results, and we've come to the determination that that is a lie. That's a lie. That's a goddamn lie. It's a lie.
One America under the rule of law. One social contract committed not to winner take all, but to giving all Americans a chance to win together. One America.
And there's the rub, Vector. Then he signed in Biden's crime bill into law. There we go. So, this speech is many things. One of them is his idea that, the culpability for racism is something that we all have to share. That, there's a certain way to do this, and it should be done the way that the civil rights leaders of the past did it, which, kind of sanctifies and, it kind of makes official the kind of strategy utilized by one group of people. But even the circumstances in which those strategies were played out, they're changed. You can't even go back and do the civil rights movement tactics and strategies anymore, because that's like asking somebody to run the plays that they did the first half of the game, just run the exact same plays the second half. Even though the defense has adjusted for those kind of plays. But you gotta run these plays. Doesn't even make sense. But having said all that, man, let me just continue to push through. What it is it is a scolding, not of only, because everybody knows that you can hold white people culpable for racism. I mean, it's just look at the history. But then also, you got to hold black people culpable for the outcomes of racism and structural and economic injustice. And some of the ways that black folks, or black leaders, specifically people like Farrakhan, because he was popular. Farrakhan was popping during the 90s, man. He was popping during the 90s. Okay? So he had to bring that energy down and, kind of elevate other kind of figures, one more in line and more, in concert with his own ideas of where the country should be going. But he lost the opportunity, actually, to talk to Farrakhan and to try to actually do something. Because, the civil rights leaders don't have, their fingers, their tentacles stretched into what's going on in the black community. Farrakhan did. You got the Nation of Islam is actually walking out there in the streets in Chicago, handing out final calls and selling bean pies and shit. They actually have a connection. They're tethered to the community. What civil rights leaders are actually tethered to the community, man? Anymore. Not to say that they never were, but I'm saying today. So he lost the opportunity. But maybe he didn't want to take the opportunity to begin with. It's more lip service and political rhetoric.
Well, how do we get there? First, today I ask every governor, every mayor, every business leader, every church leader, every civic leader, every union steward, every student leader, most important, every citizen, in every workplace and learning place and meeting place all across America, to take personal responsibility for reaching out to people of different races, for taking time to sit down and talk through this issue, to have the courage to speak honestly and frankly, and then to have the discipline to listen quietly with an open mind and an open heart as others do the same.
Let's talk about race. It's like fucking salt and pepper. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about race. We can see where the fuck that's going. Even today, having conversations about race, white people are like, fuck that shit. We ain't having no conversation. Fuck no, we ain't talking about it. You goddamn liars. You want to make us feel guilty, you motherfuckers? Fuck you niggers.
This may seem like a simple request, but for tens of millions of Americans, this has never been a reality. They have never spoken, and they have never listened. Not really. Not really.
Let's talk about it.
I am convinced, based on a rich lifetime of friendships and common endeavors with people of different races, that the American people will find out they have a lot more in common than they think they do. The second thing we have to do is to defend and enhance real opportunity. I'm not talking about opportunity for black Americans or opportunity for white Americans. I'm talking about opportunity for all Americans. Sooner or later, all our speaking, all our listening, all our caring has to lead to constructive action together for our words and our intentions to have meaning. We can do this first by truly rewarding work and family in government policies, in employment policies, in community practices. We also have to realize that there are some areas of our country, whether in urban areas or poor rural areas like South Texas or eastern Arkansas, where these problems are going to be more prevalent just because there is no opportunity. There is only so much temptation some people can stand when they turn up against a brick wall day after day after day. And if we can spread the benefits of education and free enterprise to those who have been denied them too long and who are isolated in enclaves in this country, then we have a moral obligation to do it. It will be good for our country.
I just, like, here's the argument. We need more fucking capitalism in the poor areas. This is the solution, right? We need more capitalism in impoverished areas. I just don't fucking understand it. But look, let's continue, man. I'm gonna run 3 more minutes of this shit, and then I'm done with it. If I do it again, because there's like 12 minutes of it left, and like this guy's really getting on my fucking nerves, man.
Third, and perhaps most important of all, we have to give every child in this country, and every adult who still needs it, the opportunity to get a good education.
So we got talk about race, give economic opportunities, create larger free enterprise zones in impoverished areas, and like make sure that education is offered up to more people. But fuck, bro, like today, what is 2023, man? We talking about the 90s, man. The cost of education was beginning to grow higher around the era of Clinton, man. Not get substantially cheaper. My mother went to fucking Lincoln University, man. She ain't have to fucking take out no loans, man, to go there. These people did not graduate from college or graduate school with fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt. But this is the norm today. Under the whole, the aegis of ensuring that like education is more pervasive. Let me keep pushing, man.
President Johnson understood that, and now that I am privileged to have this job and to look back across the whole sweep of American history, I can appreciate how truly historic his commitment to the simple idea that every child in this country ought to have an opportunity to get a good, safe, decent, fulfilling education was. It was revolutionary then, and it is revolutionary today. Today, that matters more than ever. I'm trying to do my part. I am fighting hard against efforts to roll back family security, aid to distressed communities, and support for education. I want it to be easier for poor children to get off to a good start in school, not harder. I want it to be easier for everybody to go to college and stay there, not harder.
I don't think everybody should go to college. That's just my opinion. I'm gonna keep pushing. Everybody should not go to fucking college, man. Everybody should not go to college, bro. And then, especially today, if you do go to college, how the fuck are you gonna pay for it? Man, I know colleges where one semester costs 50 G's, bro. Come on, man. That's a fucking Escalade or a down payment on a fucking $250,000 home, bro.
I want to mend affirmative action, but I do not think America is at a place today where we can end it. The evidence of the last several weeks shows that.
You know who the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action are, were, and will be. Carly Rue, somebody had to call you back, my boy. I'm doing a show.
That's what's up. All right, brother.
All right, dog.
All right, cool.
Yeah, that's my boy right there. I had to respond.
But let us remember, the people marching in Washington today are right about one fundamental thing. At its base, this issue of race is not about government or political leaders. It is about what is in the heart and minds and life of the American people. There will be no progress in the absence of real responsibility on the part of all Americans. Nowhere is that responsibility more important than in our efforts to promote public safety and preserve the rule of law. Law and order is the first responsibility of government. Our citizens must respect the law and those who enforce it. Police have a life and death responsibility never to abuse the power granted them by the people. We know, by the way, what works in fighting crime also happens to improve relationships between the races. What works in fighting crime is community policing. We have seen it working all across America. The crime rate is down. The murder rate is down, where people relate to each other across the lines of police and community in an open, honest, respectful, supportive way. We can lower crime and raise the state of race relations in America if we will remember this simple truth.
Community policing. That's the
But if this is going to work, police departments have to be fair and engaged with, not estranged from, their communities. I am committed to making this kind of community policing a reality all across our country, but you must be committed to making it a reality in your communities. We have to root out the remnants of racism in our police departments. We've got to get it out of our entire criminal justice system. But just as the police have a sacred duty to protect the community fairly, all of our citizens have a sacred responsibility to respect the police.
I'm done with it, man. Look, I can't take no more, man. I can't take no more of that shit, bro. You start talking about a sacred duty and shit to, just to respect the police in general, especially if these are the same motherfuckers that are beating the shit out of you, man. It's like telling a Jew that they need to have a sacred respect for fucking Nazis, the SS, or some shit like that. Come on, man. It's ridiculous, bro. It's fucking ridiculous. But anyway, shout out to Chris M. He says, not only did he sign the crime bill after this speech, the feds denied Farrakhan from receiving the $1 billion from Gaddafi in 1996. Of course. Shout out to Red Falls Black. He says, good evening, gentlemen. Support our scholars. I can't do nothing but get down with you on that one, sir. So I'm going to let people come up, man. I'm going to invite you to come into the chat. I mean, not the chat, but the stream if you want to. And tell me what you think about this here, man. Again, I did this for Vector 313. He wanted me to, kind of watch it and react to it. And so I did. And, I gave my thoughts on it. We were about to reach the close of it. And so that's why I'm like, man, fuck it. I don't want to hear this man, anymore. Because when you look at the track record of what he actually did, all he did was enhance the criminal justice system, not attenuate it. He didn't do anything he said he was setting out to do. He just didn't. But having said all that, shout out to Red Falls Black, Chris M., Saray Rogers, Andre 416 and Dr. Tiasan Johnson for the donations. Appreciate y'all, man. And then also shout out to the people who hit me up on the Cash App. And those people are T Fitness for You and Sabir Plumbing, man. Appreciate that. Again, I've already left the invite. If anybody wants to talk about Clinton, we can. If not, Good Time says he basically gave a lot of lip service and said he had no solutions because only the people are capable of solutions. He was basically saying he was useless and powerless. I mean, ultimately, he's like, well, it's up to the people to really actually change. And look, man, It took over 300 years of state power to get us in the condition that we're in. It's going to take 300 years of state power to reverse the shit. That's how I perceive it. What's up, Rogish, man? How you doing, bro?
I was all right, man. So I'll turn your show, cuz. Why you make a nigga angry on the Sunday, nigga?
Hey, bro. I was trying to do my due diligence, man, in order to basically provide a service
I hear you,
for the brethren Vector 313. But I can see how. So one of the things that's going on in this speech is he's talking about good black Americans versus bad black Americans. Seriously, man. Like, I mean, you see this being done all the time, right? So it's like, you got a group of people who have the right type of values. They're willing to work hard and, abide by the American dream or whatever the case may be. And then you got another group of people who want to take a shortcut and who are violent and, who kind of fuck it up for everyone else.
Right. Those who don't adhere to the.
So you got man, you hear like this could be a Negro from the Manosphere, bro.
Oh yeah. No bullshit. That's why I stopped watching, channels like Bernard or something like that. It just got too much. You want to give people, because I figured if I can give pilgrims the time of the day as far as to go back and forth with the bullshit to try to learn something, you know what I mean? Just to see if there's a lesson in it, you should be able to do so with your brothers. But it hurts hearing certain things come from black people, because it's like, all right, what does your blackness mean to you, and what does everybody else blackness mean to you? Because I don't think that we have a solidified understanding on what that means to us. I understand what it might be within the system or whatever, but it means something different to each of us. Yet I guess we think that we're engaging with it in some form of a value when we engage either the system or one another. But I don't know. It's like the system.
There's no uniform value system amongst black folks, but there's no uniform value system amongst white folks either, though. I mean,
but it seemed to be a uniform fuck you system to black people, though. This is the thing. Like what you just showed would be considered light. It wouldn't be considered racism by, I guess, the objective standards of it, but based off of our cultural definition and the many myriads of how we engage it, it definitely qualifies. You got marginalization there. Right, you have the quieting of one or the lessening of one's role within the participation as a group dynamic, but yet we'll engage black people as a fucking group dynamic, right? He ain't speaking for all white folks. He's speaking for the government. But now, okay, you know what I'm saying? You're just pointing out whiteness just to throw it there in the objectivity of how blackness refers to hear it from a so-called objective white man. You feel me?
Well, I mean, hey, look, all I can tell you is this is what I saw him doing in this speech. I'm gonna keep it a buck, right?
Yeah.
So you get 1 million men coming to march on Washington, which is kind of like symbolic of what occurred prior during the civil rights era when there was a march on Washington, right? So this is 1995. And everything is being convened by Louis Farrakhan, who is the leader of the Nation of Islam, right? NOI.
Yep.
And it's supposed to be, or was intended to be, a day for African American men to unite. Like, if you're killing each other, have a truce on this day.
Right.
Let's engage in self-help and self-defense against some of the social and economic ills that are plaguing the African American community.
Right.
Now, I mean, just coming to one place and saying that we should do something is not going to actually result in any substantive change. It's just not, okay? But at least
it gives a social pause, because, you know what I'm saying, people, running, living for the city, and especially at that time, we talking 95. Was that the second one, right? No, the second one was in 2000.
Yeah, so this is the first one, bro.
Okay, yeah.
We talking about October 1995.
Yeah, I went to the second.
Okay, so at this time, and I went to the Million Man March. I was there.
Yes, sir.
So during this time, Clinton went to the University of Texas at Austin, right? And it was on the same day of the march. Now, he didn't mention Farrakhan by name, but everybody knows he's talking about Farrakhan.
Right.
Because he knows who's the person who's spearheading the Million Man March. Now, you already know that there's some gross injustices that are occurring in this culture related to black men. You already know. So it doesn't matter who the fuck the leader is. This is a man who has been able to mobilize millions of black men who are willing to try to bring about some sort of change. And instead of actually having a conversation with him and being there to be, in conversation with these men, you leave the fucking state. You leave Washington, D.C. and go to fucking Texas to give a speech at the University of Austin, Texas at Austin.
Felt safe. Felt safer, especially in Texas. Think of all places, you know what I mean?
I don't know if this has anything. I'm not going to.
He felt safer out here, GG. Come on now. You're around his own folk now.
But I mean, ultimately, he's basically saying that Farrakhan's approach is not constructive, okay? Because he engages in the same kind of hate as, say, for example, the Ku Klux Klan does, which I think is a gross distortion of reality. Right. I'm not saying, like Farrakhan has on kid gloves when he talks about, like race and issues in the United States. But I mean, come on, man, you got to understand like the tradition out of which the NOI developed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
most traditions here, it's largely out of defensive.
So we got two more people, man, who've entered into the session. We got Old School Kev and we got Teresa McCray. What's cracking with T-Fitness for you? What's going on?
What's up, Tarache? What's up, brothers? I just wanted to give some context to the Million Man March again, when being there myself. But the Million Man March was started with the Stop the Killing movement. That Farrakhan went all over the South, the Deep South, all the way up to the North. I think he did about 30 different states from 1988, culminating to the Million Man March. And the whole point was the same thing that we heard that day, was he was getting brothers together to talk about atonement and to talk about coming together, but he was also doing lots of work with the gangs at the time. Jim Brown with the Mara I Can. I said this before, and I'll break it down again. My stepfather was John Amos at the time, and we were at the house prior to the Million Man March. There's a lot of different things, parts that were happening in the background that a lot of people didn't see. There's so many great lectures online that you could see that were some of the things that we talk about today, to this day, that are super pertinent. These things were being addressed to our brothers back then, and it did have an impact, for a short time. But Gigi, as you can attest, man, the way the society had been set up, it was literally designed after that to basically undo all of that work. So the social engineering played a huge role in rolling our values away from that backwards, so they could continue to point the finger on us. And I really do, brother. I've asked this, but I hope one day that you guys will be able to break down some of those Thomas Sowell videos that are out there now, because I'm telling you, being out here in the Princeton area and working with so many libertarians as clients and stuff like that who don't know anything about our community, Asian, white, and what have you, they get a lot of their information from Thomas Sowell. And it would be very, very interesting to hear how you guys can dismantle a lot of what he says, because a lot of what he says is surprising, just shitty rhetoric from a man who's supposed to be educated.
Man, all to me, look, I have no principled disagreement with like him being able to say what he's saying, but ultimately I think what he does is, and I think like, you won't hear me say this often, but I think that Kimberly Crenshaw is right about what Thomas Sowell has done. And she's not the only scholar to point this out. I mean, like Cornel West pointed this out. All he does is he takes the racial issue and moves away from it and points to characterological sources for black failure. So it's not that there's something inherently wrong with your race. It's something inherently wrong with your value system and your culture in and of itself that creates the conditions out of which you continue to, you see the kind of dysfunction and malevolence. And I get it. I understand it. to a certain extent because, I mean, like we don't have a very high developed culture. But I don't think black people's culture is too much different than the average Americans in general anyway, though.
It is not. It is not. We're hearing it. We're hearing like we're not in a different nation, cuz we in the same nation with the same social influences and conditioning as everybody else. It's just that there's a different cultural engagement in how we engage it. Just like with speaking, right? There's a
But I
reason
do
why-
want to get Kev 504 to say something because he's been the one that's like kind of not
Well, go ahead, but I'm listening to him. I'll pop in there in a second. You finish
Okay.
what you're saying. You're right. I'm
Yeah,
with you. Appreciate it, though.
It was that the
All right.
culture. He tried to juxtapose ADOS culture versus the Caribbean culture. I'm from 150th Street, St. Nicholas Avenue. I grew up around, the Jamaicans who were running different blocks. I mean, literally tried to make it as if there was no crime or debauchery within the Caribbean culture compared to Black American culture. Literally said that on one of these videos.
See,
that's Soul. You mean you talking about Thomas Soul?
Said that.
And look,
Right.
look,
You know, and I bump heads with that sometime. Me coming out of New Orleans and in Louisiana and people from Mississippi, we don't have that kind of culture with mixed with Caribbeans like that. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like when I talk to some of the brothers from the East Coast and they say like Puerto Ricans, they grew up with them and they could pass the nigga word around like their brother. Like we don't get down like that. It's really kind of was black and white down here, so we don't have that commitment. Even though we do have Haitians, I'm in New Orleans, so we got a little mixture, but they damn near FBAs. They some of them were enslaved, so that was a different melting pot for us, right? So I'm not used to the Caribbean culture and stuff like that. And I know they have a few Haitians, out of Florida, and I've seen them come up there, but we don't have that camaraderie like that. It was different.
man, stop. The only thing I need for motherfuckers to stop doing is to act as if like all of Caribbean culture is like minority culture. I mean, go to fucking Kingston, Jamaica, and see how the motherfuckers living down there, and ask them. Just see.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
If there's some sort of model shit going on there. Come on, man. Or go to the barrios in Brazil. You know what I'm saying? Or favelas or whatever you want to call them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I do understand that there's some similarities in cultures and things like that, due to the trade pipeline. And I get that, and I think it's a wonderful influence. But I think people ought to be proud of their own personal heritage, and either way, I got to respect it. When you get West Coast, that's different too. We don't have Mexicans down here yet. In the South, talking about.
So what that
But
speaks
they're
to,
overpaying
though,
with
what that speaks to is a difference. What I was going to say is the language, the way that black people here engage language. Right now, English is our first tool of language, but it's not our first language. Hence why we speak it the way that we do. Some say broken or whatever. I think what it is that we put our own ethos to it to where we can better navigate it. You know what I'm saying? For our own understanding.
Right.
We don't now we can call that a black cultural thing or whatever, if that's what we want black to mean or whatever. But my thing is what black is being made to mean despite us living within it in a particular enrichment, right? Hence why they'll try to bring the Caribbeans or whatever so-called person of color.
But that's
and
soul
make them
though.
the
Like
different-
let's gotta get it twisted. Clinton didn't say anything about Caribbeans versus Puerto Ricans. He did make mention of the fact that like America's becoming more diverse.
Right.
But like only, I don't know, like first of all, this idea that like there's something characterologically flawed about like the black American culture. I mean, dude, it's American culture, man. All the value, that's why I say hip hop. Motherfuckers talk about hip hop like it's just got like base values.
Right.
I'm saying everything about hip hop is absolutely American, man. It's capitalist.
Right.
It's about saying you're the shit, fuck everybody else, which is what Americans are about. Like it's me first.
Yeah.
It's about material opulence.
Donald Trump?
You know what I'm saying? Like, look at my car. How do Americans demonstrate that, like, they've attained or arrived at a certain social level? Through material shit. Okay?
Right.
This is what we do. Now, in my view, all I can say is, are there some differences in family structure? Of course they're there. But then you have to start pointing back to what are the underlying conditions that created the kind of family structures you see in America right now for black families, man. And one of the biggest things, I will say that the conservatives are right about this. The welfare system fucked our family structures. It did more than what slavery and Jim Crow could ever have done.
Well, yeah,
And
that was by design too, and we was also a target for that. There really was a time where white families could be on the system and married. But when we got on the system, then they separated it.
That's what I made mention to. Like,
right.
They gave them GI, the GI Bill and FHA loans and all of this kind of stuff, and kept their families intact and undergirded them living a middle class life. They came to us and said, "Well, shit,
right?
You can't have no man in the house." Like, come on, think about this. You took a makeshift Mother's Widows program and utilized it, or sought to utilize it as a way to deal with poverty in the black community. It could not do the heavy lifting. It's ill-equipped to handle the issues related to any family or any poverty culture.
Right.
Period.
See, my thing is, we got to always remember that we are constantly under attack. That shit didn't stop. Just like right. Like, I think one of the things we need is more black governors to control some of that federal money. So you won't have situations where, you can steal $77 million to a predominantly black area like Mississippi, and Brett Favre them divvy the money up and shit like that. They've been doing that for decades.
How can you assure that a black governor is going to do that? Because this is the thing that I'm constantly asking black people. Just like when they say with these police, they jump out of pocket and they'll say, well, we need more black representation. What is the blackness of that black person supposed to mean as representative to the collective that they're supposedly from? That, you know what I mean? Like,
right. Trust me, I understand. Y'all live in New Orleans.
So the thing is, they select that black person for a reason, though. So what do they think the blackness of that black person effect is going to have in their connection from the state to the constituency of their community?
Okay, well, my answer to that is, I think your odds are doing, especially in a state like Mississippi, who pledge their lives on this flat out racism, that you would want to pick someone that you can trust, for one, because yes, we do have corrupt black politicians. So you would hope that they can, in the old days, that person would actually work for the people that elected him.
I'm too old for hope, Carlos.
I have to be honest here, and one thing we don't talk. The only thing that I've seen since 2017, besides you brothers coming up with this beautiful space, is Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell are the only two people that I've seen that have done a serious concept of trying to make an organization that leads to substantive change and building it from the brick bottom up. I've not seen anybody be serious about this stuff. And I pay attention to pretty, elaborate advocates like Mark Lamont Hill, Breonna Greyjoy. These people are very smart, but they have not tapped into the things that we are really needing right now, which is a social economic mobility that can only be put through national politics. It can't be done by lifting one's self up by their various bootstraps. It's bullshit. But the rest of it, like you said, brother, is pure hope and nonsense. This stuff is brick and mortar stuff. At this point, I'm watching them build little bricks at a time, but people have to kind of pay attention to people who are really doing it, and other people who are nonsensical and want to get their face in front of a camera and get media attention and want to be the leader.
But see, here's all I'm trying to point out with me covering this video is that this was an opportunity for a president to actually engage with a black male leader and do something to actually substantively address black male issues, man. Which, think about it. Like, one of the things that he said, he's a Dixiecrat. That's correct. And he uses, I agree that he uses dog whistle politics. Even Democrats use dog whistle politics to make sure that they, are able to tap into that part of their constituency that's racist. Okay, they do that shit, and he's from Arkansas, so you already know. But at the end of the day, look, here's my thing, right? You have all these opportunities for white guys who are in power to actually, this motherfucker said we need to listen. That's the first thing he said we need to do. Listen, correct?
Yeah.
But he vehemently said he doesn't want to listen to Farrakhan. He didn't say his name, none throughout the speech, but you know that's who he was talking about. Okay? But he definitely didn't want to listen to him. So to me, it's like, wait a minute, bro, you're not really serious, because if you were serious, you would entertain what you consider to be the most radical people the onus is on you to listen, not on us to listen. You're the motherfuckers that need to be listening. You're the abuser here. So you need to listen to what the people who've been abused have to say. And you damn sure need to listen to a man who's able to corral 1 million black men from around the country to come to Washington. That shit ain't cheap. That requires a great deal of organization and effort logistically to make sure that those bodies can get to that place.
But you know what, Gorilla? I mean, what was the point? I mean, what was the demand by having the march? I mean, we needed number one thing we needed was funding. We needed, old reparations. We didn't bring it. We didn't even demand or ask for shit.
He did too ask for reparations. That is not true.
Well, that should have been okay. Well, I might be mistaken on that, but that should have been the biggest push. That we need our money so we could do our own thing.
I have to say, I want to be able to bring this back to you. Prior to all of those men coming there, Farrakhan spent 7 years in different small churches throughout about 30 odd states. 7 years going and taught and having small salons where he talked about the things that we should have been doing. The things that were pressing us at the time was drug use, but excessive violence.
That's right.
And the fathers outside of the house. It is not a coincidence that our generation, the 50-year-old brothers, the 45 to 50-something-year-old brothers, we are the most involved fathers in this country. It's not a coincidence, because that became part of our culture. The rappers started rapping about it. You had Ed O.G., Naughty by Nature, everyone encouraging brothers. It was a badge of honor for us.
Right.
To be
Boogie Down Productions. Right.
With our children. And that came from those talks. And like I said, all of those lectures from those churches are all online. You can find them. And what the brother was dropping in. Reparations was part of it. And here's my where I split from the Nation of Islam. The do for self concept is hopium. It's too much hope to say that we could if we just segregate ourselves, pool our resources together, and be steadfast and 100% only doing business with one another, that will make the greatest difference. It helps. It helps to get a group mindset for us to do better, but it's not the end all be all, because we can't all reach each other. Not as quick as a government program.
Well, wait a minute. We're not a monolith, right? So the thing is, blackness exists in a myriad of states. It's not just the people. It's not just a categorization of fellow racial categorizations within this nation or whatever. It's so many things. The thing is, we haven't defined what it is until us to present that unto the United States to have to deal with. Ergo, they can deal with us as segmented in whatever further segmentation that they can create of us.
Well, that's why they're doing ADOS. The reason why they're using ADOS is to make a distinctive claim for the Americans descendant from chattel slavery.
Agreed.
They're making that as a political. That's not just a tag or a hashtag. That is a specific category to get people to understand that there are different needs for different people within our culture. I married a woman who came over here benefit. They were Caribbeans, and they, you know, so they didn't have the same chattel slavery concept here. They had it in the Caribbean, but there's CARICOM to deal with that. So if CARICOM somehow gets reparations from, you know, from the French and the British, then the Trinidadians will get their reparations from there. That has nothing to do with us. So the
Bro, listen. Why you making this into a conversation about delineation between non-blacks and blacks? The conversation is strictly about government.
Nobody
right?
said said non-blacks and blacks.
No
one said that.
You talking about CARICOM? We're not talking about CARICOM.
No one said that. He just said because I'm addressing. You asked the question.
Nobody asked about CARICOM.
Hey, can we keep it respectful though? Straight up.
Can I answer the question?
Nobody asked you a question. I didn't ask a question.
You didn't ask a question.
Yo, wait, hold up. Let him land. Let him land, bro.
Nah, but he talking about CARICOM.
Okay, well, let him talk about what he's going to talk about.
Me. This brother said that we're not a monolith, and I just brought up one point.
Yeah.
Not for you to be adversarial.
Right.
He asked something. I answered it.
Right.
So okay, look, let me circumscribe the context of the conversation, okay? Because I'm the ringleader here. At the end of the day, the conversation was about Bill Clinton and his failed opportunity to do his due diligence to actually make tractable and manageable the problems that black men were going through during his reign, during his time in the presidency. And instead of actually doing what he himself said ought to be done, which is for white folks to listen, he refused to listen to Farrakhan and then make comparisons between Farrakhan and MLK. And to say, okay, one group of people have the right way of doing this group of people don't. So I don't have to listen to him. I don't agree with him. But then he says we need to listen and talk about race and be frank and honest and candid. So that's how I know he's speaking with a forked tongue. You're not trying to be open and honest and candid.
Facts.
You got to take this work. You just like sitting at the battle rap, you know what I'm saying? Like you on Smizak, you gotta get to work.
Get that work.
You gotta get to work, man. Like Loaded Lux, you got to get to work, man. Yeah. But he doesn't want. White folks don't want that work for real. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to listen to it. And another thing that even Clinton himself acknowledged. The average white person, man, thinks that like black people got all the gimmies and goodies and grabs. Like welfare is the greatest thing ever. Like EBT and Section 8 and WIC and all that shit. Like those are the greatest things ever. But when it comes to them getting handouts, farm subsidies to not farm, the FHA loans, the GI bills, which black people were systematically denied. When it comes to them to receive government goodies and boons and benefits, they ready to lap that shit and soak it up like motherfucking honey and biscuits. But as soon as you give something to a Negro, the first thing they say is, well, that's discrimination. Why am I not getting it? Well, motherfucker, you had 100 years of getting shit. You had the Homestead Act. I'm not going to even go into all the acts and all the beneficial programs that they receive in order to buttress and accentuate their own economic situations. I ain't got time to go through all this shit again. But the reality is, man, I just thought here was an opportunity for Bill Clinton to actually take the bull by the horns and to do some work to improve the quality, to enhance the capacity of black male lives through Farrakhan, who actually had a connection to what black men was going through by actually being able to talk to have substantive conversations with black men all throughout places all over the country, whether it's Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Louis, Los Angeles. You can't say it ain't no lodge or not a lodge, but a mosque. You can't say it ain't no NOI everywhere all around the country. It's everywhere.
Right.
So that enables you through that agency to basically say, okay, well, the conversations could be, like held and like the needs could be registered and it could be like a nervous system for actually doing some work to help deal with these issues. But instead of doing that, he didn't even offer his hand. He just slapped. He basically condemned, he publicly condemned Farrakhan and said, fuck him. This is what we need to be doing. And he gave a bunch of rhetoric that really actually didn't lead to any goddamn thing happening or occurring. We need to talk more. We need to change our attitudes. I want to make sure everybody goes to college and all this kind of shit. And I believe in community policing. We're here after BLM. This is post BLM. Tell me, the community, whatever the fuck policing strategy he was supposed to be developing to enhance the relationship between black community and white police, that shit didn't occur, and I did it.
And the fact
Hell no.
So I ain't gonna say no more. We almost at the 2-hour mark. I'm gonna let y'all talk for a minute, and I'm about to close this shit up. And I want to thank everybody. King Kenta, appreciate him. He says the march was the first march funded 100% by us. No white Jew or Gentile or corporate leadership. It was all us. This is a fact.
That's fact.
I just saw it all. Like, I just remember I had never been around black people, man, that haven't been engaged in fighting and fussing and a whole bunch of, like destruction. I never seen that many black men be surrounded by each other without no fucking violence jumping off. I'm just keeping it a beam.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it in my lifetime until that time.
I almost got in a fight though at the second march. I almost had a fight.
Man, nigga, your light skinned ass, you get to a fight with yourself, nigga, if you walking past the mirror, motherfucker. Who is this nigga, man, got the nerve to be walking past this mirror like this? That's your ass, Ian.
the second one was deep too.
I'm fucking with you, Ian, man. You know
Yeah, that's a good one. That was a good one.
nigga start a fight with his own shadow. Nigga, who the fuck? Nigga, you dark ass nigga. Fuck wrong with you, man? Why you walking so close to me, nigga? You better sit your ass down.
Shit, that's right.
Yeah, man. But I mean, at the end of the day, I just think it was a failed opportunity. Bill Clinton had a lot of influence, even though he may not have. No, I'll take that back. He did. He had a lot of social and political chutzpah in Congress. Okay, he had the ability to make shit move, and he could have made some shit move, but he didn't. So,
but none of them go ever try to put us on that level where we could equal up to them or surpass them in their own system. That ain't gonna happen. None of them gonna volunteer that one.
Okay, but at what moment of social gain for black people is that fear upon either the system or these motherfucking pilgrims that, oh shit, here they come. That's when you enter the damn building at motherfucking at the mail room and you meet the CEO and his hand is shaking when you say hello, when you look the motherfucker in their eye, cuz. So it's like it's largely, you know what I'm saying, some tribalistic shit with how they govern a lot of this shit with us. And that's why I don't really fuck with it, because it's like if it felt like it was, government or as opposed to white, all right, I rock with it, but it just feels like whiteness. If I say these motherfuckers ain't being racist, they being they self. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they can shoot that carrot out there to black people decade after decade after decade after motherfucking decade. Oh, we're different from them. Wait a minute. Nah, all you motherfuckers got an issue with our societal come up for us. All of you, whether you hate niggas or love niggas.
Right.
Fucking devil.
Well,
I do want to hear from I want to hear from Vector though, because he's the one that funded this show. If you don't know, I mean, he you didn't have to. I didn't ask for you to do this, Vector, but you did give me some handsome bread in order to do the show. So this, I have to say, I got to give him a round of applause and some fanfare. Shout out to Vector for making it possible, man. Talk to me, Vector. What are your thoughts, man?
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I stumbled upon this last week, man, and it just triggered the fuck out of me for a number of reasons. And I just really wanted to get your feedback, and I knew it would spark a good conversation to just and just to hear other brothers and read the chat and read the comments and see, am I tripping? It just listening to that whole speech really just put a spotlight for me on just how far we have not come. And not only that, that the issues, have been known and been put out there, and not just put out there by black men, you know, a lot of the a lot of the stuff he said was, you know, talking points that we have. It's just that it's, you know, there was no solutions behind it, or, you know, in some cases disingenuous. Um, but the reasons, you know, it triggered me for a number of reasons. Um, First of all, just well, first I want to speak to your point where you were saying that you know, he didn't talk to Farrakhan, and Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, you know, they have their pulse in the communities. But I think to take that point even further, if he wants to talk about, you know, the mass incarceration, the Nation of Islam has their pulse in the black community in the jails more than any. I mean, if you really want to get down to it, you really need to be talking to Farrakhan about, you know, 50% or more of the converts were because they were in prison.
That's why I say this is why I say he lost the opportunity to actually do something substantive other than to give lip service to issues related to race. He could have actually done something with this man. He could have actually worked in conjunction with this man. Because I mean, even though Farrakhan might say, you know, doing like television performance or something like that, or, you know, a speech, he might, you know, get a little, you know, he might go a little overboard and get, you know, because it's the black preacher tradition, you know, it's the hooping and hollering and all this kind of shit. So while that occurred, I mean, hey, it just, you know, like some of the things he says can be a little bit hyperbolic, okay? But still, the man has power and influence, and fuck all of the rhetoric about who looks like what. Look, we need to work with these people, man. These people actually, you say 1 in 3 black men are going to prison or have some sort of connection to the criminal justice system, and it's unfair. Talk to this man. You want to try to tamp down the violence, which, you know, the violence was already beginning to, you know, attenuate, though, during that time. It was beginning to diminish. So that's why he could make the claim, like, violence is down in these inner city environments or what have you. But, like, if you really wanted to make a change and really do something really substantive, that was the man to actually do it for. You don't get to pick and choose who you get to work with. You work with the people you have. And one of the people that he had, Farrakhan can stop Negroes from killing each other, bro. He can. That's just a fact, man. Those are the facts.
But when he would work with the rappers, they was always trying to undermine his efforts anyway, prior to the Million Man March. Whenever he got involved with most things that was positive for black people, here come these motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? To disrupt something like it's 1862 and shit. What the fuck? You feel me? Again, this is why I asked the question. Who do we think, what do we think black is within this nation? And black people within blackness? Because it ain't the same thing. We engage it as if it's the same thing, but it's not.
Well, so the funny part about what you're asking is, you know, the running joke has always been in the black community that Bill Clinton was the quote unquote first black president, right?
Yeah.
And to go back to one of, you know, why this triggered me for a number of reasons is, you know, of course, you know, 313, I was, you know, born and reared in Detroit, and I had partners in high school who trapped for the Chambers brothers from Arkansas, who Bill Clinton basically ran on the backs of, you know, Detroit, and the Chambers brothers, and being in the crime, and, you know, that was main talking points when the Chambers brothers was on VHS saying money, money, money. That was all over the TV, you know. So, you know, Clinton ran on that, like you guys said, as a Dixiecrat. But then also, I was a student at Howard University during the Million Man March, so I was there. I had partners that came from Detroit that stayed with me to go to the march, and, you know, it was a beautiful thing. But you know, fast forwarding to now, one of the reasons I stumbled onto this video is because I was having a conversation with some of them, quote unquote, pro black brothers that I'm part of a group of. Some of them were former Nation of Islam, and you know, a lot of times they talk about their, you know, disillusion with the nation. They always go back to the Million Man March as a point where there was so much pride in the nation and how nothing substantive through policy ever came from it. And then we were also talking about currently people were talking, in the black community, it's like Biden versus Trump. But then we went back to, I was telling them like, look, man, Biden in the crime bill was this, that, and the third. And then I was arguing with my partner. And he was saying, well, Clinton was the one who signed it in. And I said, well, Biden was on that shit before Clinton was even in office. Biden in the Senate was beating on Bush for not putting niggas in jail. So, the whole video, it just triggered me on a whole lot of levels, man. Because it was just, I just saw like multiple points in my life and people and other brothers in my life, whether it was dudes selling dope in Detroit, whether it was brothers I know was in jail, brothers I knew was in the nation. And then even now to this platform, we are talking about the black man's place in family and the black man not having programs for education. And he talked about all that shit in that speech. And in 2023, none of it has been addressed.
Yeah, it just goes to show you, man, politicians have a penchant for lip service, but when it comes time for the rubber to meet the road, motherfuckers ain't there doing the work. And it takes more than you just to sign a bill or to pass a bill. You got to have, like some real organization centered around what you say you're giving lip service to. But, all I can say is, man, there is no safe haven for us, man. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you saw what he did. They extended sentencing for black men. They didn't diminish the shit. I mean, you could talk about it, but you doubled down on the policies which were designed to ensure that we would be overrepresented in the criminal justice system. But he acknowledges, like, okay, what the hell, the problem is, but you don't do anything to undo it. Right? So I mean, it's just a bunch of talking and a whole bunch of lip flipping, talking out of the side of your neck, man. It is what it is.
What he did do, though, Green Gorilla, he dismantled public housing for our benefit, okay, countrywide, after the riots. He did do that. He did start to destroy all the public housing, right? And we had to disperse within the larger society. So that was a benefit. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so look, what he did was he created work for her, okay? That's what he did. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all know, but to me, that wasn't the way to actually fuck with that system. Because the system is still in place. That shit ain't been dismantled. The welfare system is still in place. With EBT, Section 8, all that shit is still in place, bro. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, he made bitches get out there and work. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you did not dismantle the system. Like, what would be required is the same sort of works program and the same kind of program that Roosevelt developed for white boys. Mm-hmm. That would, to me, that's what would be necessary. But you ain't gonna see it because, I mean, just give Negroes what we were supposed to get from the beginning instead of giving it to white bitches. Sorry.
But GG, one of the things that one line is that he kind of slipped in there. I don't know if everybody caught that when he said he would like to get rid of affirmative action, but he
I saw that. Yeah. But he said we can't get rid of it now because of the awful or horrible events that just occurred. So we can't really actually do away with it. But see, this goes back to me. This is why I showed you that, or kind of read that paper from Kimberly Crenshaw when she talked only about race. So there's two different ways of looking at race-based issues. One is the restrictive view, where all you do is talk about like treating everybody exactly the same and dealing exactly, procedurally, exactly the same from whites to blacks to whoever. It's like the colorblind approach. You don't pay any attention to race at all. But then, given the conditions of the country and the history of it, that paid so much attention to it for the first 300 years. So now all we need to do is just put a blindfold on and treat everybody the same, and it's going to remedy the sickness, the pathology that you built up over the past 300 plus years. So there's this restrictive view and there's the more expansive view on how to deal with race. To me, it's nonsensical. It's like, it would be starting a relay race where you give one team the capacity to start the race unfettered, but then you put like shackles on one motherfucking group of people and blindfolds, and then you say, okay, well, fuck it, this is unfair. At this point, let's just start the race fair. We're not gonna start it all over, but we're just gonna start now. And motherfucker, if you ain't winning, goddamn it, you run harder.
But that's how you know it's not really a racial issue, because they the only ones who got an issue with race. Black people issue is the whole Americanism of it. And they don't treat no other so-called people of color the way they treat niggas up in this bitch. So if it is about race, then you will see some, fellow colors being assaulted to somewhat of a parallel point. But nah, these motherfuckers got a vendetta with us.
Well, look, I'm gonna let y'all make one comment because it's like I'm 2 hours into this. I'm tired. I'm hungry.
All right, for the mash out. Thanks for the.
And I'm about to. And thank y'all for coming through. Thank y'all for stepping up and coming.
Yeah, man. I wanted to say though, for me, the question becomes: did he have the political will and the political capital really to back black men in their search for representation, black male representation? You had the women were upset. Even that the Million Man March even happened. They had to have the fucking women do their shit. So essentially, I think to some degree, he did have his finger on the pulse, but it was on the bitches. It was on black women, right? And black women really wasn't trying to fucking empower black women to that point. And the brother that was on before doing all that talk, he talking about ADOS with reparations, but he didn't listen to Yvette Carnell just recently when she talked about the fucking brick incident, where Yvette Carnell said, you black women really don't know what the fuck community is, because you say we don't have a community because a bitch got hit by a brick, but then Yvette Carnell admitted black women did not come to bat for black men for mass incarceration. They didn't give a fuck that we were being mass incarcerated. So in a large part, when the white community and politicians see that the black women who are entrenched in government and places don't give a fuck about us, he can't really make that fucking move, if you really want to be honest.
Okay, well, your opinion is duly noted and registered. So
that's a good point.
Ultimately, so he's made his point. He can pull down, because I'm one by one. I'm about to start. I'm not gonna pull anybody down and let them pull themselves down after they make that declarative final statement.
Yeah, all right, yeah, man, yeah, I'm out. Good stream, man. You know what I'm saying? I think to some degree, I think Farrakhan, it was up to him to actually put some of the pedal to the gas too, and actually do some of this political footwork after his success. I think he should have followed up a little bit too with that. But I digress. All right, peace, bro. Appreciate you.
Peace out, bro. So I'm gonna get Chaos Rain to make a statement, man, and then afterwards I'm gonna have Vector. I'm giving the last word.
I think that was the first time I watched something like this about him making that big speech before he signed that bill of 1994. Am I right? That was that year? 1994?
This was 1995.
Oh, so the thing was already signed last year.
Correct.
Going on to the next year, and then he's up here explaining himself how the community should be down with it. We should work as a collective, but you really put some in place because Negroes are dumb. Put in a bill that's going to lock more and more y'all up. I just don't get it. I know the violence was bad during the 80s up to 93, 94, but people got to keep in mind that it's just the economic situation that made the violence so bad in black community. But we're not really addressing the real root cause. We still talking about this, that. I said, no, it's that one of the main culprits.
Let me just say this. Look, in case motherfuckers don't know, okay, the 94 crime bill it introduced a federal assault weapons ban.
Mm-hmm.
You got the death penalty, which was expanded, and black men are disproportionately impacted in sentencing related to the death penalty. You got the Violence Against Women Act, which gave $1.6 billion towards prosecuting violent crimes against women. the 3 strikes rule, right? More funding for prisons to be built. All of this shit happened in 94. So then this motherfucker come on talking about the injustice related to, the prison, industrial complex. Bullshit. This motherfucker, you basically said, let's enhance it, let's increase it, let's build upon it. And they changed, because prior to the Violence Against Women Act, you had the Family Violence Act. It wasn't just some gender-specific type of shit. But then it became gendered. Right? So, it's a lot that... Clinton is responsible for a lot of fuck-ups. Okay? That's just my opinion. But having said all that, you got any other thing to say, Chaos, so we can go ahead and get off?
And one other thing I would say is, what Bill can lay out, it lets you know what is the future hold with this existing president now that helped formulate this bill back of 94. And now we're going to approach in the next few months 30 years of this. Now they could create a more worse bill now, the way how the climate is now, which I'm not sure how the environment's going to go. But if he's the one that formulated, I guarantee you probably before he leaves or he's about to take his exit, he'll make some even much more of an upgrade. Because bills, after a while, after a few decades, need upgrade and tweaking. And since he's the one that created, I won't be surprised he, re-merge this new type of bill, before he steps out. So that's my assumptions. But we'll see. Oh, and tonight, Chaos Reign going live. That's all I gotta say.
All right, man. Well, peace out to you, man. Holla at you. Go visit Chaos Reign's stream tonight if you're so inclined. All right. Peace out, my brother. Vector, I'm gonna let you get the last word.
I just want to say thank you, man. Like I said, I didn't want to make any kind of specific point. I just wanted to get people's thoughts on it and kind of throw it out there. Like the other brothers were saying that, and just like you were saying that, crime was diminishing around this time. Detroit, DC, and New Orleans, around that time frame, were always like 1, 2, and 3 swapping spots with the murder rate and the drug rate. But just like you said, man, you saw it, you were there, and I was there, man. It was all peace. Million Man March was all peace. So that's all, man. I hope you and the guys enjoyed the show, and I hope you got something from it. And I don't know if you like this format or not, but I actually got two other speeches about 2 other people in the future. If you down to do something like
I'm down to do it, man. Just show me the speeches, man. I'm down to react to them on my own, my own thoughts. So
all right, bro. I'll email you
for sure.
All right.
Appreciate you, man. I appreciate your suggestion to the show, and I appreciate your donation to me making it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you too, bro. Out.
For sure. So having said all that, man, this is the end of the stream, man. I'll holler at y'all on the next one.